Happy Monday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Brian McClure. Hard to believe, last day of August already. Oh my gosh, has time flown by or what? We start September tomorrow. All right, let's get right to it. I had a lot of people asking me on, last Thursday and Friday and over the weekend, hey, what's going on in the tropics? We love your updates. Please tell us. And I basically said, hey, there isn't a whole lot going on. Don't stress about it. To tell you the truth, if you liked my Friday caption thing where I was basically trying to be funny, and say, hey, can you tell what I'm saying on air? It was essentially that don't worry too much about things going on out there right now. Even though you see a map like this, which by the way, yes, there's still X's all over the place. Remember, we're at the peak of the season. This stuff is supposed to be on the maps. But let's go over each one, because now that I've given it a few days, I'm a firm believer in, by the way, resting on weekends and resting whenever your weekend is. So unless there's something threatening and unless something major is changing, I tend to just take a couple days off and just let it go. And there was nothing changing over the weekend. And quite honestly, there still isn't going to be a lot of change even the next couple of days, even though we probably will get a declaration on a tropical depression today or tomorrow. It won't matter. Nobody will care because it won't have anything to do with weather. And yes, I'm talking about the one right here off the coast of the Carolinas. Now, ironically, or not ironically, this is the same wave that I talked about all the way last week in my last video, saying, hey, it's going to come together with a little axis of moisture coming down from the remnants of Laura, combining with that, coming across Florida to give us a wet weekend. Well, guess what? We had a wet weekend. That is the same tropical wave, and now it has made its way right out here, and it is moving like that. So will it get declared a tropical depression? Possibly. Hurricane reconnaissance aircraft actually just left Biloxi. Here you can see the plane going right out here. It just left though, so I mean, I'm not going to have any measurements or anything from it. So sorry, but in this particular video, I won't. It's not anywhere near there. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if it does get declared. When you look at its circulation, it actually does look pretty good in terms of circulation. Now, is it strong? No, it's not strong. But could it be declared a depression? Yeah, possibly. There does appear to be a pretty significant circulation there, rotating around a center, so that's pretty obvious. And if you look also, here, let me show you this. You can kind of make out that leftover tail. Okay, so here's what happened. And if you go all the way back to the video that I had last week, again, I talked about this. This was kind of interesting. I said, just to give you a perspective, by the way, here's the U.S., here's Florida, okay? So now you can kind of get your bearings straight. All right, I talked about how Laura was moving across the country like that, the remnants of it. And then I talked about how there was this tropical wave coming up like this, and how there was a moisture axis down like this across the southeast. And that moisture axis was moving southeastward, almost kind of like a front, but again, a front would bring drier, cooler air on the backside. This one did not. Instead, it was a moisture axis that was moving like that, and this tropical wave would get caught up in it, and then it would move across Florida. Well, that is exactly what happened, and sure enough, look where it is now. So this tropical wave actually came all the way up like this, moved like this, then like that, and that's where it is now, and it's going to continue moving in an easterly fashion. Hence why I said it doesn't really matter if it gets formally declared as a tropical depression, tropical storm. It won't matter. It's going to stay offshore. It's just going to kick out in the Atlantic. Nobody will ever really care, except for maybe a little bit of rain in Bermuda, and even that they don't really care about. They're used to it. Okay, so all that being said, let's jump to the next thing then. We talked about how, yes, there's this little blob right here and this little blob here. Here's what I'll say about these two little things. This is a very normal tropical wave, and it is moving due west, and all it's going to do is run into Belize or the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico and just keep going. That's it. Doesn't matter whether it develops or not. That's all I'm going to say about it. That's it. Seriously, that's all. All right, the next one. This right back here, I'm not really even sure why we put yellow X's like that, because when you head into August and September, every tropical wave and every wave of moisture coming off the coast of Africa is watched. So should we be putting little yellow X's everywhere out there? My personal opinion is no, but I understand why they do it. They're just kind of giving the public a heads up like, hey, we're watching it. But quite honestly, 8 out of the 10 of these waves that we watch coming off the coast of Africa, they do like this. They come off the coast and they don't develop, okay? So what it tends to lead to is this ultra sensitive viewership of, oh my gosh, here comes another one. Here comes another one. When in reality, not only does it happen every season, even in the quiet season, we have tons and tons of tropical waves. But again, the majority of them never even develop. So let's move on then, and let's show you what is going on in the big picture. Why things aren't developing right now, why I'm not stressed about anything that is going on. And what I want you to notice is, by the way, the red colors on this map basically, think of it like big batches of moisture, deep moisture. So you can see this batch of moisture right here off the east coast of the U.S. with, again, the likely developing depression or at the very least a tropical low. And then you can make out here, right in there, is that tropical wave. There appears to be something there, 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 and there. You see my point? There's all kinds of stuff out there. And if you're thinking, well, gosh, why don't meteorologists always talk about this? Well, we don't have 30 minutes in a 30-minute news show to talk about every single one of these things, which is why it's my job to go in, look at all the data every single day, and then just give you what we need to worry about, which, again, most days there really isn't a lot. So we basically just hit on the highlights. Here's what we're watching, here's what we're tracking, here's what might develop, that kind of thing. In today's society, again, partially because I think of social media and partially because there's so many internet resources, I think everybody likes to just really hone in on everything that's going on out there. But quite honestly, most of this will never materialize into anything. So let's take this first one right here, and the reason why I'm not worried about it one bit is because even if it develops, it's just going due west. There is a massive high pressure right in here, which is normal. Usually we call it a Bermuda high, and when it's in there, it will make things, tropical waves, just keep going westward, especially if they're weak, which this one is. So let's track that little blob of moisture. Okay, there it goes. See it passing just near the Cayman Islands. Okay, there it goes. Oop, looks like it's near Honduras. All right, and there it goes right into Belize and Mexico. And if you keep it going, okay, it's right about in here, and that's at the end of this week. Okay, so then if you go a little bit further, it just keeps going. Okay, so even if it develops, you see what I'm saying now? All right, let's go up to this one. This is what I think is either a depression, developing into a depression, or could become one. And again, regardless if it does, here's why I'm not worried. Watch where it goes. Okay, kicks off to the east. There it goes. And it looks like maybe, if you watch real carefully, it looks like maybe it even tries to either develop something new, or it's almost like cyclogenesis occurs on the back end of it. Here, let's do it again. See it? Right there. See it? Isn't that kind of interesting? And that kind of stuff happens all the time out in the Atlantic. So could it be declared a depression tonight, tomorrow, whatever? Maybe. Even if it is, won't matter. It will end up going all the way out here, and then this could be either a new one, or this could be it finally developing. Regardless, doesn't matter. This kind of thing happens all the time out in the Atlantic. We don't give it any press time because it just doesn't matter. Nobody cares. It would just kick off like that anyways if it does develop, because that's what things in the North Atlantic do. Okay, now let's go all the way back to current time, and I want you to look at things like this, okay, coming off the coast of Africa. Those are tropical waves. So focus your eyes there, and then let's track that. Here, I'll go through it with you. All right. Okay, it looks like one just kind of sits south of the Cabo Verde Islands. Looks like one tries to go a little west. Here's something. See it right in there? Okay, that tried. Let's track that one. Okay, so focus your eyes on that one. What does it do? Not a whole lot, but it does go west-northwestward, ending up about right in this area by Labor Day to early next Tuesday, something like that. Okay, so that's something that I'll be watching. Let's go back to the Cabo Verde Islands and the coast of Africa. See right in there? It does look like something tries to pull out at the end of this week. And it does look like something maybe is right in here too. Okay, let me go further. Okay, this one, a little unraveled, but it's trying. And then this one, yeah, it's trying. Okay, let me go a little further. Okay, that one ultimately ended up going up here. This one ended up unraveling over here. Okay, so here's my point to all this. As a meteorologist, this is what I do every single day. I look at pressure map, height maps, moisture maps. I look at everything. Trade winds, surface winds, upper level winds, wind shear, you name it. It's my job to do that for you. So what I'm seeing right now is nothing is of a significant threat. What's interesting to me, though, is the large-scale patterns across the country. We look at things like Madden-Julian oscillations, oscillations which were discovered 30, 40 years ago, but yet we're still learning about 30, 40 years later, and they rotate around the globe, around the Earth, and I watch things like that. To tell you the truth, here, let me kick over to it. And although you do not need to know much about this, this is really geek talk now. Like now I'm going to a whole nother level. But these are the types of things I watch. We track this. This is its current position right now. This is the oscillation I was just telling you about that goes around the globe. And when it's in these phases over here is when we tend to be more worried about upward movements in the atmosphere, lift in the atmosphere. Therefore, tropical development being more likely and tropical development being more likely to intensify and strengthen and survive. Okay. Well, notice it's going out of those phases and going into what we would call a more, I hate to say quiet phase, but a phase that's not as conducive for lots of tropical activity in the Caribbean, Gulf, and Western Atlantic. So just a heads up, that's what we're looking at right now. Okay, that being said, it's not that surprising that all of a sudden it's gotten a little quieter ever since Laura, Marco, ever since they kind of passed on by and made landfall, right? What I want you to notice is, let's hone back in on this right here, this wave, which again, I don't think is going to be any big deal. It's just going to go like that. What I want you to then notice is this area right behind it. And then also right here on the north coast of South America, okay? Watch what happens in this area. It's almost as if two things are happening. Number one, you have a batch of moisture that appears to kind of follow that tropical wave as it moves west, okay? I watch this area a lot this time of year to see if something can develop right in here, because then it can move like that, okay? The other thing I noticed is, notice this finally breaks away and does this, and then this kind of holds back, okay? A lot of times when you see a map that looks like that, see how there's just so much moisture in here. There's just moisture everywhere, right? Believe it or not, that's not great if you're looking for a single entity tropical storm or hurricane to come out of that. Because what you need, there's too many vortices going on down there. There's too much activity. What you need is something to break apart from what we call the intertropical convergence zone. What you need is something to break away from that trophy area, and you need to get it out here alone by itself in its own little environment for it to traditionally really have a chance of being the next major hurricane. And I don't see that happening in the short term. Now, long term, that does start to show some signs. There's one, see what I mean? Okay? But here's going to be the very, very important thing. We're headed into the peak of season. We're in it, okay? The next month, month and a half, we're in the peak of the season. So it's not surprising at all to see any of this. But here's what I watch, okay? This is all the way out Friday, and you'll notice something's happening. Look at this. Right up here across the United States, from the upper Midwest to the Great Lakes. That is a big, strong cold front right there, okay? It does not come any farther south, though, past the mid-Atlantic. It stops. But let's go further out. Let's go into next week. Whoa. Okay. Now all of a sudden that is a much stronger cold front. And that one comes into the southeast. There it is right there. Okay, I bring that up because when we get into September, a lot of people get excited about, when's the first big cold front going to be in the southeast? Could we possibly get a cold front into Florida even in September? It doesn't happen very often. It's rare, but about once every 10 years we'll get a strong cold front in Florida. And it's like we get an early fall and everybody gets excited. Our fronts usually don't start coming down here until mid to late October though. But here's the negative, and I've said this a lot over the years with cold fronts. And don't get me wrong, I also get excited. Trust me, I love fall weather. Oh, I love it. I love summer weather too, but I just love the change in the seasons. But here's why, as a meteorologist, I always go, you better be careful what you wish for in Florida. Anywhere else in the country, upper Midwest, plains, Great Lakes, Northeast, Yeah, wish for the cold fronts, no big deal, right? But here in Florida, you have to watch out what you wish for because watch what happens when next week's cold front dips down. Here's what I want to show you. You have what appears to be something kind of oozing its way off from the intertropical convergence zone of South America and northwestward. You have a tropical wave in here, and you have tropical moisture coming up like this, and here's a strong cold front right in here, okay? What I'm trying to describe here and explain here is what meteorologists in Florida over the years have realized and learned, and that is if you have earlier cold fronts in the fall season, September to early October, coming down into Florida, it's not always a good thing. No, it's not going to cool down the water and then just shut down the hurricane season. No, it does the opposite. Instead, what it can do is it can come down into the southeast, stall these fronts out right in here, and you can get spin-ups or you can get tropical development moving like this, and then they move along the front. In other words, they would come up, then they would take a right-hand turn, and they would do like this. And that is how you've gotten the classic storms of the past, like the Wilmas, the Charlies, those storms of the past where we're watching this area, you know, out in here, and we're watching this area in here, and then all of a sudden you get a strong cold front that comes barreling into the southeast, and everybody's going, yay, fall-like weather, pumpkin spice latte. But then as a meteorologist, I'm going, no, oh no, because I see something down in here going, uh-oh, like that. Now, do I see anything at this time? Do I see any evidence? No. I am not a hype person. I will be the first to tell you if I see something like that, and I do not. So that's the good news. But do I see the general pattern setting up that way? Yeah, actually, I do. It doesn't mean it will happen, but I remember some past seasons, especially back in the mid-2000s, where we had patterns where the cold fronts came down pretty quick, and they would come down. I mean, this is a deep, deep cold front. I mean, this is going to bring some seriously cold air all the way down to Texas. And when that front sets up like that, that's all the way next week. That's about September 10th, 11th. You're going to have lots of tropical moisture streaming up like this. It doesn't guarantee anything, but that's where you can get a hurricane or a tropical storm developing and then moving like that. However, here's the other caveat to all this. I know there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, right? This is why weather forecasting in general is hard, but tropical forecasting is super, super hard because there's always another caveat. Sometimes the fronts can help a little bit. And what I mean by that is, even though I get worried because they can bring activity into this area, if they're strong enough, and if you get 1, 2, 3, you know, like maybe we get 2 or 3 fronts in a row that come to the eastern seaboard, it can set up a pattern that is conducive for these waves to do this, what we call recurvers, fish storms, if the pattern is just right. So what we do is we start looking for things like high pressure areas. Okay, let me show you what I'm looking at here. We look for things like the Bermuda High, okay, and we look to see where its placement is. So as of right now, that's where it is. And you'll notice here, let me go back. Okay. Let me see. Okay, there's the high. Now what I want you to notice is, and I'm sorry for all the crazy colors, but it's what meteorologists look at. It's what we understand. What I want you to notice is a couple different things so that you can see what I'm looking at. There's that little tropical wave, and then you see this tiny little area right in there off the coast of North Carolina? That's that little depression, tropical low, whatever you want to call it. That's that, okay? This feature is going to go right here on the north side of the high. This feature is going to keep going west because this high is pushing everything along like this. And so my point to this is you look for cold fronts, troughs, and high pressure ridges this time of year, because if this high is out here and these waves come around it, you can get a lot of what we call fish storms out to sea if your cold fronts keep coming to the eastern seaboard. And everybody goes, yes, fantastic. I don't care if we get 20 hurricanes as long as they turn away from the U.S., right? But if you get this high pressure to kind of nudge a little bit this way and it nudges in like this, and then you have cold fronts like this, then what it does is it gives you a pathway for storms to either hit the East Coast or come up into the Gulf and then try to turn back to the Northeast, okay? That's what we look for. And again, it's way too early for that. I see absolutely no threats this week at all. None. So you can put all the red X's you want on the map, and I don't see a single threat. Because, watch the one in the Caribbean, okay? That little blob, there it goes, okay? Now come back. Now watch the little blob off North Carolina. There it goes. It goes out. By the way, you can see right there what I was telling you earlier. See how it's almost as if it like spins up something right out there. It does, right in there. See it right in there? So that's kind of interesting. But let me go all the way to next week. Okay, this is fascinating. All right, here we go. This is really, really neat. As a meteorologist, at least. This is dork speak, but this is kind of neat as a meteorologist. Here's your deep trough. Okay, for early to mid-September, that is a really impressive trough. That is like a early October trough where it brings lots of cold air down into the country like this, okay? Here is your high pressure. All right, so I don't see any threats, but I'm watching this area right here. Because if something comes in, or if a tropical wave tries to develop in here, it's going to go right there. Because it's going to go between this trough and between this high pressure. This is where it wants to go, okay? So you kind of get an idea of the things that I watch this time of year. And then it'll be very interesting to watch this kind of stuff farther out, like way, way, way out. We're talking like 2 to 3 weeks from now. And by the way, no, that is not very, what I would call accurate. I mean, our forecasts have been proven to be pretty accurate within 5 days. They get less accurate every day you go past that. So a lot of times you get out 10, 14 days. It's mostly climatology. But you can, at least as a good meteorologist, pick up on general patterns, like I was just showing you. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. By the way, this is your high pressure right now. There it is. So, I mean, that's impressive high pressure, which is why this thing in the Caribbean is just going to go due west. This doesn't matter. Who cares? And anything in here, it's really not a threat right now. Okay. Let me go out in time. Okay. Interesting. High pressure's actually in here. See what I mean? This is later this week. Like, nah, no threats. Nah. You're not going to punch through that high pressure. It's not going to happen. Okay, let me keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, we're all the way into this weekend. See what I mean? Looks like something, maybe. Something here. Okay, here's a tropical wave. And this could be a depression or a wave. Okay, but look. This is a strong high pressure. It's basically gone, don't want you coming this way. Okay, and then, all right, finally, there we are. Next Tuesday, now I see a pattern change. Okay, right here is something. Right here is your big dip in the jet stream, and your high pressure has finally backed off a bit. By the way, this doesn't matter. This is just an upper low. That doesn't mean anything. So right here, this continues to be the area that I'm talking about. That's where I'm going to watch. Okay, that's where I need to watch, because going into about a week and a half from now, we need to see if any tropical weather will be pulled up by this big dip in the jet stream. So while a big chunk of the country is basically going to be getting excited about, hey, the first taste of fall, and hey, yeah, it feels like fall, and there's such cool weather. Florida, southeast coastlines, eastern seaboard, September is when we have to watch out for. I have lived in the southeast for such a big chunk of my life. I grew up in the southeast, and I can tell you right now, September is when you just watch for everything. You watch for the Hugos, Dorians, Irmas, Marias. You watch for everything, because anything can form and then move at the southeast coastline. So that's what I'm watching right now. Honestly, I don't see any threats in the next 5 days. I just don't. They can put as many X's as they want out there. There's nothing going on that's going to be any threat. It's down the road. I'm thinking it's down the road. By this weekend into early next week, I'll have a better idea on how this is going to materialize next week. A big chunk of the country is going to get a big blast of cool air. It's going to be like an early fall season blasting in. I don't know what that means for October. It's too early to know. But I think it's going to be next week when we're going to be going, could there be a threat? And that doesn't guarantee there is. Again, remember, I showed you that Madden-Julian Oscillation Index, and it does not show any hyperactivity, at least phase, for the next 15 days. So maybe we'll get lucky and maybe it won't phase up just right. If it ever does phase up, that's where you get a little nervous. All right, so it's Monday, August 31st. Hope you're having a great Monday. Have a great day. I'll probably do another update tomorrow. Maybe we'll look back on Laura, and I'll show you some of the things that we saw, some of the models that did best, and some of the tracks and some of the accuracy. Maybe we'll do that. All right, have a great day.